Welcome to episode 4 of How to Climb in League of Legends. Now, the last 3 episodes were obviously quite a while ago, but today we are bringing you a player who started this season at Gold 3 mid laner and has now reached the goal of Diamond. What you're about to listen to is his experience going from Gold to Diamond, tips you guys can implement yourself, as well as advice on whether you should get coaching, what self-improvement tips you can do yourself, as well as players who are looking to join their college, high school teams, advice on what to do there, as well as all things champion pool and everything else. So if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you can see his op.gg here, currently Diamond 4 2LP in the top 1.77%. If you are just listening to this, I will put this in the show notes, so you will be able to check out his op.gg, as well as his Twitch, where he is looking to start streaming. If you like this show, if you're someone with a similar story and you want to share it, please add me on Discord. I'll put my personal username as well as our actual coaching Discord in the link in the notes below. And just send me a DM, say, hey, this is my op.gg. I've got a story I want to share about my solo queue experience, and I want to give advice to your community about how to climb with or without coaching. I will be more than happy. I'll send you a reply and hopefully we can get you on an episode. But without further ado, let's jump into my episode with Preston, a Diamond 4 mid laner who has some really good down-to-earth words of wisdom that aren't about getting Diamond quickly and talking a bit more about the unsexy but way more realistic way of looking at improving and climbing in solo queue. Awesome. All right, Preston, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being on here. The first question I want to ask you was, firstly, how did you hear about lolcoach.academy and how long have you been a part of our Discord?
Well, thank you for inviting me, first off. I appreciate that. I think I was just looking on the internet and then I found you guys. So I was just looking for coaching. I was just like, man, I kind of want to get some actual coaching. And then I just was looking. I was like, oh, these guys seem pretty legit. And then I hit you guys up. And then I think I've 4 months in the Discord. Yeah, I think something like that.
Wow. And do you remember what rank you were 4 months ago?
I know when I got the op.gg reviewed by y'all, I was gold 2. I know that for sure.
Shit. Yeah. Okay. Nice. And we won't spoil what rank you are now, but that's a good little intro. So to get everyone knowing you a bit more and how you've climbed to where you are, which we'll soon find out, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Firstly, what role do you play? What champions do you main? And what rank were you at the start of this season, if you can remember? So not 4 months ago, but the start. And then what's your current rank?
Dude. So this season, I started like halfway through, not even, probably a little bit like longer, I'd say, right? When I went to, if it was 4 months ago, yeah, probably like a little halfway through the season. Yeah, I would have been gold 3 maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's probably where I placed at.
Yeah, and you finished Plat 3 last season.
Yeah, I finished Plat 3 last season.
Yeah.
I played mid lane, play Diana and Ahri mostly Diana, but I do play quite a bit of Ahri too, and then just kind of some random stuff, but most of those two.
Nice. And I think a lot of players get to a point, particularly like silver, gold, platinum players, where they've got a champion that they one trick or they're thinking about one tricking. This is not in the script, so you're gonna have to go with this one. But I guess, what was your advice? Were you ever at a crossroads of like, should I continue playing Diana? Should I broaden my champion pool? When you got to that crossroads, or if you did, what kind of made you decide, hey, I'm going to stick to Diana? And then, of course, have the Ahri as the backup. But what made you commit to that kind of one tricking to that goal rank?
Okay, so maybe I'm just a little weird and I'm just different from all the other people, because I know a lot of people, they like just like changing champions, like trying out all this random stuff. Like, I'm not like that. When I first started playing League, like in season 9, I think, I only played Ahri. I actually did not play Diana. Ahri was my main. I think I have more points on Ahri than I have on Diana.
Yeah.
And I just played her because I liked her. That was the only reason why I played her. There was nothing to it. There was no like, she's the best champion at this or she's the best champion at that. I was just like, hey, she's kind of cool. I like how like simple her kit is. It's kind of fun to dash on people and hit the charm. So I started playing her because of that. And then I actually had a friend that played Diana, and I started playing Diana because of him. And then I liked Diana, and I just played both those champions because I liked it. I don't think there's ever a point where you pick something because it's meta. Because I think in like any like you know platinum and like lower and stuff, you could play anything and like just win with it if you're good enough on the champion, you know. Because it's just, I think most of it's just about play what you enjoy and then just keep playing that because you like it, you enjoy it. I mean, it's still a game at the end of the day, so you got to enjoy it, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's something sometimes people forget with League of Legends is if you start, particularly if you're like, I'm hard stuck or I've got 500 games in silver and I want a new strategy, maybe I want to start a new account or try and get to gold in that new season. Starting with that first question of like, how do you have fun in League of Legends, whether it's a certain role, a certain play style, or a particular champion that makes fun, if you have that as your foundation, it just sets you up for success because you're more willing to learn. You're like more comfortable with losing because you're at least you're enjoying the champion and you love the play style. So when it gets hard, like when you have those hard times, like lost streaks and stuff, you've still got that core foundation of, hey, at least I'm enjoying this champion. I like playing them. And then you're more willing to learn, you're more willing to put effort in because you're having fun. Like when you're not having fun, you're trying to play the meta or you're constantly changing champions. You never get into that rhythm and you never have that consistent fun element that is so crucial, particularly in your case and in my case as well. Like that foundation of fun is a really good way to climb. Awesome.
Absolutely.
And so did we say what your current rank was? I couldn't remember.
You said save it for the end or something.
Oh no,
Like,
you can tell everyone now. You can tell.
Okay. Right now, I think I'm Diamond 4, like 18 LP or something. I don't know what it is. It keeps going up and down.
Yeah, and you're on the NA server, which basically puts you in the top 1. I'm looking at op.gg now. Top 1.77%, which I think a lot of players forget. Like if you're in the top 1.77% of players, that means like you're the two in every 100 players will only ever get there. Like league players, which is crazy. So you're in the top like 35,000 in your region, NA, which is pretty cool.
It's definitely a lot harder than people give it credit for because I know when I was looking at the player based stuff because I just got interested in it. Like you compare it to Overwatch, the highest league grandmaster is top 2% of players, and then and Diamond in League is top 2%, and it's like. It's not even the highest league, so it's you kind of give it less credit than it really is. I mean, top 2% is kind of a really big deal for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. So this is a good question. So I before we get into the best strategies for what you found personally in getting to Diamond, although we have touched on it a bit, like one tricking, focusing on a champion you enjoy. What were some of the things I guess you tried? So you had that goal rank in mind of Diamond. But what were strategies that you tried and you found didn't work? And maybe advice for players who are gonna or who want to try those strategies and like, how they could quickly just, forget about that one and, focus on others.
Okay, so I think for me, it was like setting a goal, right? And I feel like it's pretty obvious. Normally, if you're gold, you don't want to just say, I want to be diamond at the end of the season. You got to like pick something like more realistic. Like I want to be platinum at the end of the season. Like that's a pretty realistic goal to hit, right? And then after that, when you start practicing, you need to look at your own games and determine like what you're doing wrong or, get somebody to look at your own games, which would be the most ideal situation because normally you're going to give yourself credit because you're thinking a certain way. You have somebody else look at it, they have a different mindset, they're going to think about it completely differently and give you like an actual, honest opinion on it. And it's not like kind of skewed in the way that you think it is. And then when you do that, when you get somebody to coach it or you get somebody or you look at the games yourself, right, you need to go implement what you were working on. So you need to practice what you're working on and think less about winning the game and more about doing the thing that you were working on as best as you possibly can. So if you lose the game, it really doesn't matter. If your goal was to place more awards than you did the last 20 games you played, and you do that, that's a win, even though you lost the game, because you're improving,
Yeah. So it's focusing on the process that leads to the outcome of winning or losing rather than focusing on the outcome of
Yeah,
the
because
win.
like whether you win or lose is like a short-term thing, right? If you get better at wording, that will carry on throughout all of your games, right? Or you get better at pressuring kills or whatever the thing is that you're working on, that will carry on through all of your games, not just the single game that you're in.
Yeah. And I guess so, a really good point you touched on, which I think a lot of players, particularly listening to this, is, they might not want to get League of Legends coaching. They might not be able to afford it. When you review your own games, what would be a really good tip for a player trying to do that? Do you look for key moments? Do you review your deaths, team fights? Is it whatever you think you need to focus on? How did you kind of approach reviewing your own games to start with?
So I feel like it's kind of different depending on where you're at, right? If you feel like you're just completely lost, 100% get coaching because you're gonna be reviewing stuff that you may be doing like correct or just stuff and changing stuff that you don't know needs to be changed, right? It's not gonna be as optimal as it could be, but I feel like generally you have an idea, right? If like your silver and your CS is really low, go into practice tool and practice last hitting. Like it's stuff that you can look at and say, hey, I probably don't do this as good as other players, like like a gold player or like a platinum player, and then just go and find drills like on YouTube or go do something that you think would improve that skill, like last hitting a practice tool or watching a ward video on word award, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think you can definitely do that, like, realistically every day or every week. Like, a quick 20-minute video is going to go a long way and can sometimes be more productive than queuing up and playing a game. Like, if you watch that 20-minute video, you spend that 20 minutes in the practice tool, and then you're just going to find that's actually a better use of your time than just, like, constantly queuing up. And I think a lot of players just think playing and grinding is the way to improve, but sometimes, yeah, reflecting, watching other people, looking at how they've gotten past something that you're trying to improve on is a really good piece of advice. So
Yeah, I think you want to go ahead or you want me
no,
to
no,
go?
you keep
Okay,
going.
okay. So for that, for the last bit to wrap that up, I think that's what separates a really good player from just your average player is that when they have a bad game or they know they did something wrong and they go back and review the game. Like ideally, you review as many games as you can because then you can know what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's more valuable than just like being mad about it and then going into another game and losing another game. You don't know what you did wrong. You're just assuming what it is and then going into another game and losing.
I completely agree. I talk to so many players, and something they do, and I think this is what a lot of people listening will do as well, is you lose a game and you don't review it, and you think you know why you lost it because your emotions at the end of that game, you're like, I lost it because of this guy or because I did this. But then when you actually go and review it, it becomes a lot more objective. Like the emotion comes out of it, the heat of the moment, the competitiveness, your adrenaline's kind of, you're a bit more level headed. And you can go through and objectively be like, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And what can I learn so this doesn't happen again for next time?
Yeah, that, and also you're not playing the game at the same time, so you could just think. You're not worried about your champion
Yeah.
mechanics or like where I'm going or anything. You're just thinking about why you did whatever you did. So
Yeah.
you're just more clear-headed.
Yeah, and you can pause, change vision, you can see pathing, you can go 30 seconds back and look, oh shit, what were all the events that led up to this key moment in the game that we lost because of it? That's awesome. This is my next question is, are there any other strategies you'd recommend that worked for you besides like reviewing your own games, getting coaching, having fun, anything else that you found really worked that no one knows about? Any secret tips?
Honestly don't think there's like any kind of secret tips. I think I used to watch, I think it's Coach Curtis, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
on YouTube, and I don't remember what video it was, but he said some shit about like there's this one guy that he coached and he like thought about every time he got a lead, like it's just even if it was like a little lead, like a 1 CS or something, that he thought of it as a lead, and it like was this very like unsexy way to play League of Legends, because everybody looks at those highlight clips.
Yeah.
If you're playing the game correctly, it's gonna be unsexy. You're not getting like highlight clips. You're just playing the way it's meant to be played. You're getting the CS, you're rotating all this stuff. Like it's just less cool, I guess, than people think it is. I think most of the time, like the higher you go, or like if you watch like pro play, there's not that many deaths because that's the ideal way to play the game. It's not like the nice, cool way to play the game. It's just the ideal way to play the game, you know?
Yeah, focusing on that consistency and like, 30 CS lead, sure you're not going to get that, but that's basically a kill. Whereas
Yeah, a lot.
people would rather be 1-0 than 30 CS up or something like that.
Yeah,
Which I think, yeah, the YouTube clickbait thumbnails, all the highlight reels, and particularly young impressionable majority guys, we all like those highlight reels and that stuff, the vanity of League of
yeah,
Legends. And then the real players who are focusing, improving, they're focusing on the unsexy side, the consistent stuff, getting your
yep,
fundamentals right and being able to identify when you're doing those correct. So that's actually really good advice. And Coach Curtis is amazing. He's on
he
YouTube.
is.
He has his own subscription service as well. And I think he has a podcast as well. All really good resources out there. And he's also Australian like me, which is pretty cool. So the question, I think this is one that's going to be a really good one for a lot of players who are trying to get to Diamond. So was reaching Diamond that first time, as soon as you saw the emblem come up, was it as good as you thought it would be?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people probably don't think so. It's one of those things that like you kind of like have it in your head and you expect it to be a certain way. Then you get there and then you're kind of like, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not as cool. You start playing games, you start playing more games, right? And then you realize that like the quality of the games in Diamond are awful. They're like you're playing with like people that bought accounts, you're playing with, just it's just not as spectacular as you thought. You think you get here and it's gonna be like Challenger, everybody's gonna rotate perfectly, like the games are gonna be amazing, they're gonna be LCS level games, and they're really not. I mean, honestly, it's really not.
Yeah. And particularly when you've hovered around, like which a lot of Diamond players do, you hover around Plat 2, Plat 3, Plat 1 to Diamond 4, it's not like a massive leap. It's not like suddenly you're in the VIP area. Like it is literally Plat 1 players in Diamond, there's Diamond 3 players in Diamond 4, like it's not like a big leap where, yeah, as you said, the games are going to all of a sudden change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good one. And then this is a question that we've kind of touched on with strategy, but I guess what would be your advice or recommendations for players who are looking to reach Diamond but maybe are struggling or feeling a bit unmotivated? Is there any kind of other advice you could give those guys?
I think it's a lot of it is kind of like what we talked about earlier. Play stuff that you think is fun, because if you're not having fun playing the game, especially if you have like bad MMR and you're trying to hit Diamond, you're gonna have to play a lot of games. And if you're not enjoying it, like just don't do it. It's not worth your time, right? You could do a lot of other things that you're gonna enjoy.
Yeah.
Just try and if you have an account that has bad MMR, think about making another account and trying to climb on that account. Play to preserve your MMR. Don't. I know you don't like dodging games, but I like dodging games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I recommend dodging games to preserve your MMR, especially if you know it's gonna be like a loss. Like if you picked 580 into like a Rammus or something, and there's like 2 tanks like on the enemy team, just dodge it. You know it's a loss. Just dodge. You know?
It's a good call. Yeah, using dodging, something. Yeah, as you said, personally, I've never done, but I think when you do it right, it can actually, yeah, as you said, preserve your MMR, and you're only losing like 3 LP, particularly if you're only doing it once a day.
Even lose that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe 5 LP at the most for the first dodge, and it's 5 minutes of your time. Just go up and get a sandwich or something.
Yeah.
You know, like
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then so I remember you put, I think, a stat in our Discord chat before this, but how much time did it take you to get to Diamond? I think you worked it out, right? Or how long you've been playing League of Legends?
I think I have 3 accounts, and across the 3 accounts, I think it was around 2,200 hours to get to Diamond.
2,200 hours.
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, that's definitely a lot of time. I don't think, unless you're playing a game like a lot, you're not putting that much time into a game, you know?
Yeah. And so you say the average game is like, what, 30 minutes? So that's like 4,000 plus games?
Yeah. You'd have to run that through a calculator.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Something games, yeah.
Yeah.
Something insanely high. It's a lot of games.
Yeah.
And most of that, for me, I know a lot of people play normals, but I only played solo queue. I think on my main account, I have 300 normal games. So a majority of all the games that I played, all solo queue games.
Yeah. And you've been playing what, 3 seasons, more?
Yeah, 3 or 4 seasons. I started at like the very end of season 9, so I don't even know if that counts, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is a good question because I know you've got something, I guess, exciting that you're going through now, which is almost your next journey after Diamond, which it seems like it's less vain than Diamond. It's actually more meaningful and productive. So what are your plans now that you've reached Diamond? Are you going to try out for a team? Is it a goal of like trying to get to Masters now or D1? What are the next steps for you, Preston?
So, um, honestly, I'll probably keep playing solo queue because I mean you kind of want to get to those. You're chasing the higher quality games. I honestly think it probably doesn't change. You probably still get lots of enters and just ego players and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But probably still climb solo queue. But yeah, I'm playing collegiate League of Legends now, which is freaking awesome. It's definitely a lot of fun. It's a completely different game than solo queue. It's like different mentality, different champ pools, different everything, and it's just really fun to like kind of switch gears from something that was just only you focused to something where you actually have to work with your team and play with them.
Awesome. And so I'm from Australia and we don't have, I guess, a very established esports scene. And I know I talk to a lot of people, particularly from NA, of like they want to join their high school team, they want to join their college team. Are there any tips you could give for that in general? Is it like networking? Is it getting to Diamond? Is it, knowing who the leader is? Like what are the best pieces of advice? Because a lot of people say I want to join a pro team or something, and then I'm like, well, are you joining an amateur team? Like, if your goal is to get in the LCS, are you currently in a team, even if it's just your mates? Are you doing anything towards that teamwork? So, yeah, tell me a bit about that.
So, I mean, obviously it depends, right? In high school, there's probably, a lot less players that are going to be on the team just because of the population of your high school, right? I would say just go for it. If you know that there's like a team or people that's probably the hardest part is figuring out if there is a thing at your school for it. If you know there is, then go for it. More than likely, they'll all probably be around your rank. They'll all probably be gold, platinum. Maybe there's like a diamond player, but more than likely, just because the pool of people is so small, they won't be that high rank. So I would say go for it, try it out, have some fun, and that's honestly the biggest thing, having fun. When you step it up to college, the collegiate level, it's kind of a different ballgame. There's a lot more people, depending on your university size, there's a lot more people that you're competing against. Then your rank will start to matter. But the thing I've learned is your solo queue rank doesn't matter as much as you think. It still matters, right? Because they get put into a higher bracket and stuff like that. You play higher level teams, but they value competitive experience a lot more for sure. So they will ask you about your competitive experience. Have you played on any teams? Like, what does it look like? Just because, like I was saying earlier, it's a completely different game when you get to that point. You have to switch. You have to be able to switch from playing for yourself to playing with the team.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, and so I guess on that note, you're like a Diana one trick almost with a bit of Ari as your back pocket. And now you're joining a team where, particularly team play, your Diana is just going to get banned out. So are you looking to now increase your champion pool? And I guess particularly now that almost because you're in team play and it's playing at more optimal League of Legends, you now have to start looking at what are the meta mid laners. Diana definitely isn't one at the time of this recording in October 2022. So how are you looking to broaden your champion pool? Is your coach giving you advice? Are you going solo? What are you looking to do with that?
So it's kind of a mix of like all three of those things, right? Some of it's like what I personally as a player like, right? Like that is like around my play style and all that stuff. But there's also some stuff from like the team. What does the team play? Like what combos, right? Like you want to typically be around, be able to play around your team and have like wombo combos that you can do.
Yeah.
Then some of it's talking to coaches and like a lot of what our meta stuff is just like LCS meta stuff, right? So like you're playing Azir, Oriana, stuff like that. You're basically gonna have to learn a lot of those champions, or at least be like decently proficient in them, so they can pick it for you.
No.
But yeah, you're unless Diana doesn't get banned or something, and they think it's like really good into the team, you're not gonna play it. More than likely, you're playing champions for the team. You're not playing for yourself anymore.
Awesome. That's a really different way to look at it. And you can even sometimes apply that to solo queue. I know sometimes you just got to treat your teammates like robots and don't help them. But sometimes that is good advice of like, if there is a carry on your team, which can be rare, like playing around that. So that's a good little piece of advice. I actually wanted to jump bit. I know we went all the way to your team play and what you're looking at now beyond Diamond, but I wanted to jump back to solo queue for two questions. So the first one is Diana. So definitely not a mid lane meta pick at the moment, but let's say someone's watching this or they play Diana mid as well, or maybe they play Diana and they're looking to switch to mid. What are two or three tips you could give to anyone looking to play Diana mid lane?
So first off, I play Diana mid because it's broken regardless. Like it could not be good mid lane, right? It could be like a B tier champion, but just because she's so good at so many things, right? She's so good at taking towers. You could build her tanky. You could build her as like an assassin. You can you could play her in so many different ways that I think she's pretty much good all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like you could be mid lane and be like level 7 or something, and your jungler's not doing Rift, and you could just walk and take it by yourself with no jungle items. Like I think that's what makes her insanely broken. You could just force your team to do objectives when you know it's the right call.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're playing Diana, it's like learning basically all the limits of the champion, but that kind of applies to any champion, right? Like I would, go and practice tool, try and do dragon like level 6 with no items or with no smite, because you can do like lots of stuff. You can take pretty much every single jungle camp like without smite and all that stuff, and just know what you can do and what you can't do. And then when you get in game, just play around it. Like if you can't get away mid, go take the jungle's rafters. You put their jungle behind and you get gold. It's like, why not? The champion's good at it. You can do it.
Yeah. So she's highly versatile, and I know you play with her currently with a few keystones, and you also refused to play her when it was Sunfire meta Diana. So maybe quickly go into the different keystones you use and for what situations you use those for.
Okay, so normally I run a lot of phase rush just because it's pretty versatile for a lot of things. If you want a tower dive, it's really good. You just, you could go bot lane, tower dive with it, and then run out so you don't burn your flash, right? Or if you get ganked mid lane, like say like you're shoved up and then the jungler comes from behind you from where your tower is, you can QE to them and then just walk back to your tower with phase rush. It's like basically super safe. I mean, you lose a little bit of damage over electrocute, but it just feels good to play, right? The mobility is good because that's kind of what Diana lacks as a champion is mobility. So when you give it to her, it feels really good to play. Normally when I do phase rush, I usually do mana flow and transcendence and scorch. Sometimes that last one I change up depending on the lane, right? If I don't think I could kill them in lane, I might take Gathering Storm instead for the scaling. But normally it's mana flow because Diana mana sucks. It just feels really bad. And then Transcendence, it feels better in team fights to just be able to get your Q off more and your W off more. And then typically for the second tree, it's Sudden Impact, and then like Relentless Hunter or like Ultimate Hunter for the Ultimate Hunter cooldown. Relentless Hunter I think feels a lot better just because the extra movement speed just feels better to walk around the map. And then usually I take 2 Adaptive Force, and then obviously like Magic Resist or Armor. I usually don't take attack speed increase.
Yeah.
And then with that build, you could do Rocket Belt or Night Harvester. I think both are pretty good. Just kind of depends on what's going on, right? Rocket Belt if you need a dash to like dodge something. Night Harvester if you're going to be running around in team fights a lot because it just feels good. And then Electrocute, the basic build that I think most people that play AP Diana do with your Sudden Impact. If I remember all the other stuff. Basically all the far right tree of that.
Yeah.
And then all the secondary of that, you can flex like a lot of different things. It's just part of Diana being versatile. You could do, if you're playing into like a hard lane or like someone in like Ahri that'll trade back really hard, you could do bone plating and shield, the shield one. So that way you get the lethality and you tank a lot less damage from Ahri.
Yeah.
Or you could do sorcery and just go like full glass cannon, like just jump straight in, absolutely obliterate everybody.
Awesome.
Okay, same thing with that. I would probably only go Protobelt on that just because the movement is so lacking. You have to go Protobelt.
Yeah. Cool. And then the more general one is tips for mid lane. So going from gold to plat. Obviously, I know you're plat 3 last season, but you started midway through this season back in gold, all the way to diamond now. What were maybe like 1 to 3 key tips for mid laners, who are particularly for solo queue, looking to get better, or just fundamental stuff that you should always have in the back of your mind when playing mid lane?
This one, I feel like it really depends like on your elo, right? I think when you're in gold, you need to learn how to abuse mistakes that your laner makes. And, there's some like obvious stuff, and then there's some less obvious stuff, like with wave management, or like, just less obvious stuff, right? If they hit the wave and like the wave's gonna shove to you and you want that, then don't hit the wave back. Punish them for it, or if they waste all their abilities. I think what I see a lot in gold is like they'll use a lot of abilities like miss hit, like Ari will miss her charm. Like you should instantly walk up, zone her off the wave, or try and fight her, because like you should punish that. It's like 10 seconds that Ari can't do anything, Platinum, I feel like people are pretty good like mechanically on champions. They don't really make as many mistakes, but they still will. I think it's more about being able to like know the macro better, like know like what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, where you should be at. I think a lot of platinum players don't like recall before dragons come up and then like set up wards and stuff for dragon. They'll just like instantly walk, or they won't set their wave up for it. They'll just walk straight to it, and that's pretty punishable. If the enemy laner does it, you should punish them for it in whatever way it is, right?
Yeah.
Those are kind of the biggest things I can think of.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. So the last one is, and this is, your chance to self-promote. So I'm going to, obviously op.gg is Synthetic Desire. I'm going to put that in the pod, if you're watching this or listening to this on podcasts like Spotify or anything, I'll put it in the show notes. But on YouTube, I'll put it in the channel description so you can look and see Preston's builds and, all the stuff he's talking about. But do you have a stream or anything you want to give a shout out to? Are you going to be are you going to start streaming more now that you're in Diamond? Or, got anything where people can watch you play?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to start streaming more. Right now, I'm kind of like, I had been streaming before, then I kind of stopped. Now I think I'm going to get back into it again.
Yeah.
I'll probably be streaming every Tuesday, maybe about like 3 or 4 hours, just some solo queue games. My Twitch is Synthetic Desire, same as my op.gg. And if you want, you can go on there. I have 2 other accounts, and you can look at the other stuff on my other accounts on the Twitch.
Awesome. I'll link the Twitch as well in the description as well. So awesome. Well, Preston, that's all I have for you. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Any last words before we finish this up?
No, man. Just thanks for having me on. I love talking about League. This was freaking amazing, That's about it, honestly, unless you have anything for me.
No. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, and I'm hopefully going to try and do these more again. I used to do these maybe a year ago, and then as soon as you messaged me and was like, bro, I hit diamond, and then 2 days later you're like, bro, I'm doing tryouts for my college. I was like, fuck yes, this got me pumped, and I'm like, let's get an interview, because I feel like so many players have those 2 goals that they're struggling with. So I really wanted to pick your brain with that. So thank you for that.
That's one thing I gotta say this before I go, because you just reminded me. That's one thing. I think hitting diamond isn't necessarily about your diamond. It's kind of like, it feels like this. A lot of opportunities open up for stuff, It feels like there's like a lot more opportunities available for stuff just because you're such a high level player, Like with the college stuff, I would probably recommend being at least diamond if you're going to play for your college team, just because that's probably what they're going to look for, especially if you're a solo queue player. 100% you need to be diamond at least.
Awesome. That's a really good point. So did you feel like there was a lot of self-pressure off your shoulders when you hit diamond? Because I feel like a lot of players, it doesn't feel as good, obviously, when you do hit diamond. But does a weight come off? I remember when I hit diamond, I was just like, oh, I can actually play solo queue and not focus too much on the rank anymore, but more just about playing good League of Legends.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. You hit it, and then you're kind of like, okay, I think the best part about hitting diamond isn't that you're diamond. It's because you have basically all the fundamentals like down to a T, right? And now you just get to look at the little stuff that you're doing wrong, like, oh, I should have walked up to let them hit me to shove the wave, or just like little things that nobody else would think about. You have to play it like perfectly to get every little lead, and I think that's the funnest part about being diamond.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, cool. Well, Preston, again, thank you, and we'll wrap it up there. I will.
All right, man.
I'll catch you. Obviously, we'll stay in touch on Discord, and hopefully, I'll catch you on some of your streams.
Okay, see you later.
Awesome. See ya. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Preston, a Diamond 4 Diana One Trick. If you are looking to get more of this, please make sure you're following me on all socials. I'm on Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, you name it. Jump on there, just search lolcoach.academy. If you're looking for coaching, type it into a browser, lolcoach.academy, and I will give you access to coaching advice from myself, as well as my challenger coaches. We have a variety of boot camps that are weekly, group sessions, group training sessions on. I also have a Discord, again, link in the description below, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube. And guys, solo queue is tough, but these stories that I'm trying to bring to you with these episodes are showing you the way more realistic way to look and approach League of Legends. Clickbait on YouTube, all that stuff, it glorifies the progress or the climb it takes to get to platinum, to diamond, silver, to gold, all that. But in reality, it isn't as sexy as those videos take or make it out to be. So what I'm trying to do with these episodes is show you guys the realistic way to climb, the tips and advice that are actually meaningful, not looking at vanity like, oh, I got 16 kills in this game but I still lost. No, focusing on the fundamentals, the realistic tips that players, everyday players like you, are using to get to their goal rank and beyond. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and yeah, make sure to follow me on all my socials. Check out all the links in the description below, and as always, cheers, good luck on the Rift, and I'll see you on the next episode or in my Discord.